Hello, I'm AJ Hoge. Welcome to the Effortless English Show, the show that teaches you to speak English powerfully. I will help you become a successful international leader. Visit effortlessenglishclub.com for our free email course. On the show today, I have Kristen Dodds from Learn Real English. How exactly do you learn the real English? The idioms, the slang used by real native speakers, Americans, British, Australian. Well, Kristen's going to talk about that. Also, later in the show, we both will answer your Twitter questions. So Kristen will help me answer your questions from Twitter. And Kristen is one of the co-founders of Learn Real English. And she has been teaching English for a very long time and also a very good friend of mine, my best friend, in fact. So it'll be interesting to hear from Kristen and what she thinks about how to learn real English. So, Kristen, what exactly is real English?
Well, it's like you were just mentioning, AJ. Real English involves idioms, it involves slang, and it's what real people are using. Language is something that evolves. It's constantly changing, and you don't get that from a textbook. When you're learning from a textbook, you get the basics of a language, but you're not getting that aliveness, the changing, the slang that's always changing, usually by younger people. That's brought in a lot of times. But yeah, so that's what we teach. We teach using a lot of idioms and slang through real conversations, not stilted conversations that you'll get from textbook type learning.
So textbooks are not teaching real English mostly.
No, not at all. It's very how could I say? It offers the basics of English, of learning English, but you're not going to be getting the idioms, you're not going to be getting the slang, you're not going to be getting words that are combined together when we're speaking quickly, naturally. For example, like you and know. A lot of times when we're speaking, we'll say, you know. You're not going to be learning that from textbooks.
Yeah, right. I know I had the same issue. Obviously I'm part of Learn Real English as well. So, and we talk about this all the time when we were teaching and using textbooks. Back in the past, that like nobody speaks that way in real life.
Right, exactly. And we hear from our members, some who, they move to America, or they come to visit, and they think that they have I was about to use an idiom, a handle on the language, which actually means they think they have a good understanding of the language. They're able to speak English, but they come here and then they're confused when they're trying to speak to someone just out on the street. They don't understand them. And a big part of that is just if they've learned from a textbook, from a standard, classroom setting, they're not getting those idioms, those slangs, that essential part of a language, that realness is missing.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, let's talk about how the lessons and conversations are made. Can you talk about that? So what's different? Like how do we go about it? So obviously I'm helping with it as well.
Yeah. So there's also Joe is one of the other directors, Joe Weiss. So the three of us get together and decide upon a topic, something that interests us. Many times it's something that we've had a direct experience with, and we'll sit around, and it could be just two of us or maybe all three of us will have a conversation about it. Speaking in a way that we would be speaking to each other if we weren't being recorded, as if it was just there was, this wasn't being recorded for the business at all, just very naturally, just one-on-one, or speaking to each other as friends speak. Mm-hmm. And so in just naturally out of that conversation comes idioms many times, slang, and another nice bonus to our lessons is a lot of times there naturally cultural things are brought in just from what we're speaking about. And so that's the basis of our lessons.
Well, that's a great point about culture. I recently did a little webinar where I was talking about culture, and culture and language, they go together, and especially with real English, like the idioms and slang. I mean, those idioms come from the culture. The slang comes from the culture. So knowing the culture of English-speaking countries, I think that's also quite important. What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, it is definitely important.
Aren't you thinking, we've been talking now about possibly doing a Learn Real English show, like this Effortless English show, and focusing it on culture. I mean, are you still interested in that idea? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I am interested in that idea. In fact, I was talking to my mom last night on the phone. She was super excited about it. She was even going on about how we could really incorporate a lot of history, too. She's very interested in different, I don't know if she was using the term correctly, dialects of America. I would tend to say accents, but she was just saying how, she's very interested in history anyway, but she thought a lot of members might be interested in just learning various things about historically how, well, here's a good example, New Orleans. She kept talking about how America's a melting pot. New Orleans comes to mind. It's such an eclectic mix of people, and how the language has really, morphed, how it's changed and evolved from French to English, and I think there's even some Spanish mixed in. And so it's speaking of something like that could really interest people. They're also then learning about, so they're getting a little piece of America that they don't get from Hollywood movies or typical things in the news.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think it would be really a fantastic idea to do a real English show, real English, real culture, and show and talk about, kind of like a radio show, what we're doing now, but talking about, as you said, like the real America, not the Hollywood America that everybody sees, and not the tourist America, because a lot of times people will come to America from another country, but they just go to the main tourist things. They go to New York, they see the Empire State Building. That's great, but there's so much more. Like you said, New Orleans, it's one of my favorite American cities. It's so different.
Yes, when a lot of times when people come, and I can speak to my own experience when I visit other countries, many times you're just getting a surface level of experience. Part of that barrier is if you can't speak the language, but also another part is if you just don't know where to go, if you are just kind of stuck in those touristy areas, it's just not very representative necessarily of the area where you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like, we talk about we're in San Francisco, and the tourist area of San Francisco is called Fisherman's Wharf, and that's where you go there, and there's lots and lots of tourists, and mostly when tourists come here, they see Union Square, the little square downtown, and then they see Fisherman's Wharf. But like people who live in San Francisco almost never go to Fisherman's Wharf unless they work there or if they're just like jogging or something. But we never go to eat there. We never, go meet people there. So it's I can see why it's a pretty area because it's on the water and it's got some really beautiful views. But on the other hand, that's not the real San Francisco. That's not where people who live in San Francisco hang out or do things.
No, you're absolutely right, and also to take that further, a lot of times, well, specifically in Fisherman's Wharf, a lot of those restaurants, that's not the kind of restaurants that are even around San Francisco that people are eating in. They're catering to tourists, so many times they're blander. They're just, we have so many great little ethnic restaurants here in San Francisco, and you're not going to find those in the tourist area of Fisherman's Wharf.
Well, yeah, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say you'll see a lot of seafood restaurants, which makes sense because it is on the bay, the ocean, but also just a lot of bland Americana food.
Well, I was going to say even Anthony Bourdain, if our listeners don't know, Anthony Bourdain has a show now on CNN. He travels around and he focuses on food and travel. And he used to have an earlier show on the Travel Channel, I believe. And he came to San Francisco one time, but the restaurants he visited, when we watched it, we like his show, but when we saw the San Francisco show, we thought, he went to all these terrible restaurants. He didn't go to any of the really famous restaurants that people here like. It was weird, right? Remember that?
It was very weird. We couldn't figure it out. Yeah, it was...
That's like, why is he going to the worst restaurants in the city? It was so strange.
Yeah.
So I think it would be really cool that we could talk about that in the show, Joe and you and I, and we could talk about food and music, and your mom's idea is cool too. There's some interesting history about America that lots of people don't know. We're all three Americans, so I think we focus on real American English and real American culture.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting, the possibilities.
Speaking of real English, I have to laugh because our last recording of a conversation, last week?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yes.
Yeah. So I wish we had kept our microphones recording because right in the middle of the conversation, remember you and Joe had a huge fight.
Shh. Joe wouldn't want to say that.
Now that's real English. They're yelling at each other. You guys are yelling at each other, and Tomoe and I are there like, oh my God. Oh.
Yeah, it wasn't funny at the time, but it's funny looking back.
So it's real English.
Yeah.
So I don't know if people know, but yeah, that you and Joe are obviously together. They're a couple.
Right.
Well, shall we? Why don't we go to Twitter now, and we can answer some of your questions. This is really probably one of the favorite times, and so Kristen's going to stay with me now, and she's going to help answer these Twitter questions. So you can ask questions to both of us, not just me. Is that okay, Kristen?
Yes.
All right. All right. So my Twitter is @AJHoge. It's just my name. It's twitter.com/ and then my name, AJHoge, AJHOGE. To send a question on Twitter, you just type the @ symbol, like for an email, the A with a circle around it, @AJHoge. You put that first, and then you type your question. I'll see your question, and I can't read all of them because we usually get them very fast, but I'll read some of them, and both Kristen and I will answer your questions right now. It's question time! Let's go to Twitter, shall we? See what we got on Twitter. All right, so question time. Here we go. Well, first of all, here's a comment. Remember Georgiana from who's living in Spain, Kristen? The VIP.
Yes, you showed me the video recording of your. She was the last person you spoke. She was your last guest.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, she's just had a comment. She said, "Learn Real English is absolutely rocks. It's great. A Learn Real English show would be awesome."
Oh, great. Thank you, Georgiana. I also I remember speaking to Georgiana too on the phone during one of our webinars.
That's right. Yep. She's a VIP member, ACC member. So, yeah, we did. You did chat with her. I think it was our last one.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, taking your questions on Twitter, at AJ Hoge. Type in your questions. Okay, here's an interesting question from Oter. These Twitter names, Oter Oscar says, describe your neighborhood and you'll describe the world. That's interesting. So I'm not sure what that's not really a question. It's more of a comment. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say maybe he's asking us to describe, I don't know. I was going to say maybe he's asking us to describe our neighborhood.
Or maybe saying that that a neighborhood is sort of like the microcosm. There's a vocabulary word. Microcosm of the world, meaning it's like a little. Every neighborhood is like its own little world. I don't know.
Could be. Yeah.
All right. Well, here's a question I get all the time, so we can discuss this. From MS Farrell Yam 8. What is the best way to learn vocabulary? I always say reading novels. Reading easy books is probably the best way. Do you have any ideas about vocabulary?
Me? I was just thinking the same exact thing. Reading books that people are really interested in, that draw them in. That is asked a lot, and that's pretty much always our answer.
Yeah, it is. Well, the great thing is my guest next week is Teresa Snyder, who is a writer. I got connected to her on Twitter, and she writes fantasy. I'm not sure if she does sci-fi also, but it's I think it's mostly fantasy. And for a younger audience, meaning that it's it's a little bit easier language, so it's perfect for our members. So I'll talk to Teresa next week about writing and reading. And on Twitter every day she posts like a recommended book of the day, which I retweet all the time.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's one of the great Twitter connections. So, okay, Julia, you remember Julia, right?
Yes. Hi, Julia.
She says, "Hi, Kristen. I love your passion for animals and nature. How did you develop it?"
Oh, I grew up with well, first of all, I grew up in a neighborhood where there were a lot of trees, so I was always outside playing in the woods. So I think that is where my love of nature started. And then as far as animals, we always had pets. So we always had cats and dogs, and I even had some rabbits and guinea pigs. I had a chinchilla at one point, which is a little animal. They have squirrel tails and rabbit ears, and they have really soft fur like rabbits. And hamsters and fish. I've had a lot. So that's where my love of animals developed, which comes from my parents. They obviously had a love of animals, and by bringing pets in, into the family with me and my brothers, it just started from there.
Yeah, for me too, actually, because I love animals as well, and I think it came from having pets. We had a lot of we had dogs and cats in my family, and I had pet rabbits at one point too, and it's great. One of the things I would love to combine, we've talked about this several times, you and I especially, about doing some kind of course or show, or even like a travel show where we travel around, and then as part of that show, trying to help out some nonprofit charities that are helping animals. So
yes,
I still think it's a cool idea.
Yeah, animals or the environment.
This is interesting. Joelma, who I believe is from Brazil, one of our VIP members, said she has a suggestion. Actually, she says she suggests that we have short videos about real situations. I think it would be interesting. And I'm not sure exactly what she means by real situations, but I'm guessing, because I've gotten this suggestion before, like ordering in restaurants and all that kind of real-life stuff.
Oh, that is a good idea. What popped into my head when you said when you were reading her comments of real situations is all the real TV shows that we have now.
Well, exactly. See, you know this because I've talked to you about this. I'm excited about it, but that's what I think we should do. I think we should do a kind of reality TV show with you and Joe and I, so that we have microphones on all the time. We have one or more camera people following us the whole time. And then we go on a trip. Maybe we travel somewhere in the United States so we could show American culture. But it's kind of a reality show so that it's even more real, because we're not sitting down to have a conversation. We're just living life and meeting people and recording it.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool.
Yeah, I think it would be too.
And then, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then too, as we've talked about when we're traveling, if there were cameras on us all the time, microphones, you're seeing you're getting a feel of our real personalities. I mean, our real personalities are showing through right now, but even like the not so good times when maybe we're tired or getting frustrated or
yeah, because you guys get frustrated and tired all the time. I'm never like that. Okay. Yeah, they could see the real AJ when I'm really in a terrible mood and oh no. This is the real AJ too. But yeah, I think it would be a great idea. It's a cool idea. It would be a little bit expensive to do. We have to hire the camera people, but I think we'll do it. I think we will do it sometime.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Okay, this is a very interesting question from Modi's 90. What is the thing, the thing that would make you feel that you're talking to a native speaker? So in other words, I think the question is that you're talking to someone who's not a native speaker, but what is it, what could that person do, or what would it be that would make them feel like a native speaker, that would make them seem like they were a native speaker? Okay, can I give my answer, or do you have one?
No, go ahead. I'm still thinking on it.
I think maybe the first thing would be pronunciation. I think that's the first, because native speakers can have bad grammar. I mean, depending who they are, right? I mean, I've met plenty of Americans and others who have terrible grammar. And also native speakers, especially if they didn't go to advanced school, maybe their vocabulary is not that big. But for me, well, I guess it would be two things. It would be pronunciation. So clear pronunciation. You can clearly understand what they're saying. And then the second thing would be, for me, would be fluency. Would be that they're just kind of, it seems effortless. They're talking, but they're not struggling at all. It just seems to be coming out quite easily.
I'm still a little confused by the question. He's saying what would make it easier for native speakers to understand a non-native speaker? Is that basically what he's asking?
My feeling of the question is basically, I think the question is, how can I sound like a native speaker?
I see. Yeah, definitely pronunciation is key.
It's huge, right?
Yeah, it's huge.
And I think that what's interesting is people get so focused on grammar. They think that, Americans or Canadians or whoever are sitting there noticing every grammar mistake and worrying about that. But people don't really focus much on pronunciation, but that's much more important. They just need to understand your words, even if they're not perfectly grammatical, I think.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Also, something just came to mind is kind of being able to get out of your own way. So in other words, not get caught up with that worry and that fear, and just not be thinking to translate, but just to relax and let it come naturally.
That's true too. That is a big one. Is just that feeling of relaxed communication. And even if you're not sounding exactly like a native speaker, that's not really important. But if you just come across, if you're relaxed and you're just communicating and you're not worried about grammar and all this translation and mistakes, you're just relaxed and talking, people will talk to you and they're happy. They won't care. America has lots of people from other countries, so you don't have to sound perfect.
Right.
Yeah, okay, good question. Let's take another one here. Let's see. Okay, so Teresa Snyder, who I mentioned, she says she writes fantasy, sci-fi, science fiction, paranormal, and memoir. So she writes lots of different things. So looking forward to next Sunday. Cool. All right. Okay, someone asked, what is this show about? What is this show about? This show is about learning to speak English powerfully and also about career development, kind of international success, you know, living a life of international success. Most people are learning English for a reason. If you're just learning it to take a test, that's a very weak reason. Maybe we can talk about that. What do you, Kristen, in your opinion, you know, what do you think that, you know, people should do with their English? In other words, for me, I find that sometimes people don't even realize why they're learning English. They're told to do it in school, but they sort of forget that they're doing it, you know, to improve their career or to travel or something like that.
Well, it's like we talk about all the time. When you've got that emotional component involved with learning a language, that and there's a real purpose, I think that you're going to be more successful at learning it. You're going to be more interested, especially when you've really, you know, you've got a clear focus on why it is you're wanting to learn it. Yeah, whether it's for your job and you're wanting to advance at your job, or whether it's for travel, or there's a whole group who live in Europe who have, it seems like it's a social thing for them. And that
make connections too, international friendships.
Yes. So, yeah, I know from my own experience, you know, I learned French in high school and college, and I was doing it just because I had to take a language. I was a little bit interested, you know, I thought the French language sounded beautiful, and I was interested in French culture, but there wasn't enough of that to really drive me forward to continue with it.
I see.
So yeah, that emotional part is very, very important. Knowing why it is you're learning it, and you know, just having that interest, that focus.
And again, it's like, you know, real English. In other words, real life reasons, not school reasons. I need to pass this test, but real life. Well, how do you want to use English? You know, to make international friends, to improve your job and career. Those are much more powerful, right?
Yes, it's coming from within you, not someone else telling you you need to do this.
Just a last comment from Twitter here before we finish the show. It's from Charlie, speaking of France.
Ah, Charlie.
Yeah, he says, if you guys shoot a reality show, please don't bleep out the swearing.
No way. Fuck no.
Yeah, that's real English too, you know, those kind of swear words.
Sorry, I was speaking. Yeah, it is real English. Hearing the swearing, the cuss words. So that is definitely a part. Come to San Francisco and you're going to hear it all around you all the time.
Yeah, even if you don't want to say those things, you probably should at least understand them, so you know. Well, they're not always insults, you know. They're used in so many ways. You know, these words like shit, fuck, damn. You know, they can be used in positive ways too. So it's good to sort of learn how they're used and in which situations.
Absolutely.
All right, so Kristen Dodds, co-founder of Learn Real English. It's learnrealenglish.com. So to learn more about Learn Real English and the Learn Real English courses, again, learnrealenglish.com. Kristen, thanks. I'm sure we'll have you back on the show, and maybe we'll have our own Learn Real English show coming soon, right?
Yes. Thank you, AJ, for having me as a guest. Thank you for all your questions. Bye.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, see you next time, Kristen. See you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, so now on the show, just a little bit Effortless English news. What's happening in the world of Effortless English? One thing we just mentioned, talking to Kristen, possibly a Learn Real English show is coming. We're just discussing this idea right now. Kristen and I will be meeting this coming week about creating a Learn Real English show. It would be similar. It would be on Google Plus like this, and kind of a talk show method or format. So it's very similar to what we're doing now. But we would discuss real American culture. We're American, so we're going to focus on American, or at least North American culture, Canada and the United States. So we'll talk about that, and as we move forward, I will let you know. Maybe you will have another show for more English listening practice. Another piece of Effortless English news. I am working on my book still, the first Effortless English book. The first version, the first draft of the book was finished, and then I sent it to the editor. The editor looked at it, sent it back. Now they want me to add more to the book, make it longer. So I'm writing more on the book again. So this is the process of writing. It's you write, and then you correct things, and then you write more, and then you rewrite and rewrite and rewrite until finally it's done. So I'll let you know when that book will finally be ready. And finally, next week on the show, Teresa Snyder, author, writer, Teresa Snyder, who I mentioned earlier in the show. We'll be talking to her about both reading and writing. So that will be a good time next week to really send in your questions about reading and writing. We'll have she's a teacher, and I believe she's a teacher, and she's also an author of books, and she writes at a perfect level for many English learners. Fantastic. So Teresa Snyder next week. Thank you very much. Now, as always, we end the show with our mission, the mission of Effortless English. This is the deeper purpose of Effortless English. We have a code and a mission. Our code, how we treat each other, right? So we do the best we can. We do the right thing is number 2, and we show each other we care. Our mission is to explore new opportunities for growth, to bring confidence, vitality, and happiness to people all over the world, and to boldly go where we have never gone before. I'm AJ Hoge. You have been listening to the Effortless English Show. Go to effortlessenglishclub.com to join our free email course and get more information about our other courses as well. I will see you next week on the Effortless English Show. Thanks so much. Bye for now.